Now, I call out to the spirits of this place. I will give anything or pay any price, if only you will help me save my people.
Oh, Arthas, you don't need a cursed rune blade for that. You just need me. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Giant Grant Games, and today Deathless runs have moved out of the Krapulu sector and into Azeroth. Before we get into it, here are a quick reminder of the rules for the run. 1. Units I control cannot die. 2. Try to save all allies possible. 3. Deaths in cinematics do not count. 4. Buildings are not units. 5. Timed units count as deaths if they expire. And 6. Play on the hard difficulty. With that out of the way, put on your healing pants because we have a Lordaeron to save. The Defense of Strahnbrad serves mostly as an introduction to heroes and army control. The hero mechanic should be pretty familiar to most people. Heroes in the campaign start at level 1, and in general they can gain 1 level per mission. Each level increases attributes and can either unlock new spells or improve old ones. I'm given the Paladin Arthas at level 1. Initially he starts with the ability Holy Light. The Paladin hero focuses on healing his allies and increasing their durability. This is absurdly powerful on a Deathless run. Around the map there are side objectives. First, I rescue little Timmy from a band of gnolls, and after that I take down a bandit lord and get some guy's book back. On to Strahnbrad, where I meet the first challenge of the run. This guy. Due to roll 2, I have to go to a reasonable effort to save him. I tried really hard, and I just couldn't make it happen. The orcs are laser focused on him. After about 30 reloads, I gave up. Sorry bud. The remainder of Strahnbrad was easy. I get some reinforcements, save some civilians, and take down the slave master quickly. Now that the game is sure I know how to attack move footmen, I get to build a base. The first quest is to build basic infrastructure. After breezing through that, I head to the east and find a group of dwarves who ask me to kill a dragon, giving me some riflemen to do so. I kind of stopped paying attention during the dragon fight, and my rifleman was almost barbecued. After the dragon dies, Arthas hits level 3, and I get the second rank of Holy Light. Once I bring the dragon's heart back to the dwarf, I get an orb of fire. The extra damage from this item is nice, but the big benefit is that Arthas can now hit air units. This is going to be very useful in later missions. Now the only objective that remains is to kill the enemy orc leader. After skirmishing with a few groups of orcs, I find the Blade Master. I have to be careful. Blade Masters have a chance to critically strike, allowing them to deal absurd amounts of— Whoa! I did not notice that the enemy Blade Master was level 6, and he has his ultimate ability, Blade Storm. After an emergency evacuation, some healing, and potion chugging, my 22-man army barely manages to take this Blade Master down without a loss. I did not expect such a hard fight this early in the run. Ravages of the Plague is another no-build mission. I get my second hero, the Archmage Jaina, with the ability Water Elemental that summons a ranged unit with a timed life. Because I'm an idiot, I instantly summon a Water Elemental, realize I can't beat the mission in 60 seconds, and I have to restart. The initial enemies are simple bandits. Sadly, there's another pair of civilians that I can't save. I know that the civilians don't matter much, but so far this has been the easiest Deathless run I've ever done, and I'm looking for something to spice things up. After destroying the bandits' camp comes the real enemies, Undead. In this fight, there are 3 AI-controlled footmen. They're fairly annoying because I don't get control over them until the fight ends, meaning that I can't micro low HP units backwards, I just have to heal them. The next big fight is where the true challenge starts. I am determined to keep this idiot alive. He spawns with a decent hit point total, meaning I can Holy Light him as he gets low, but he still dies in a few shots. Worst of all, Blizzard obviously didn't intend for him to live. He quickly stops a few seconds after he started running, and he just sits there, watching the fight while being shot with arrows. After burning far too much mana keeping this guy alive, Arthas has finally saved a citizen. Good job! During the fight, Arthas reaches level 4. I grab him the second rank of Devotion Aura. After rescuing 2 priests and a mortar team, there's a final fight, an abomination. Except, this isn't an elite abomination or anything, it's just a normal enemy masquerading as boss. I feel like they should have been able to up the challenge for hard difficulty a little bit. The Cult of the Damned is the last of the easy missions. I can now construct priests and mortar teams. Using these in tandem with riflemen means that I can have an army that can stick behind Arthas, deal high damage, and patch itself up. This is going to be my bread and butter for the mid portion of the campaign. After defending the enemy attack waves, I move out. Mortar teams can snipe buildings and necromancers from a long range. I pull enemies out from their defenses and can eliminate them fairly easily. Arthas hits level 5. Instead of improving Holy Light again, I opt to get 1 rank in his final basic ability, Divine Shield. Once the base falls, we meet the necromancer Kel'Thuzad. His defenders are pretty beastly. Instead of risking my army, I dive in with Arthas using Divine Shield. For some reason, the human Kel'Thuzad is considered undead even though he hasn't died yet. This means I can use Holy Light to nuke him for huge amounts of damage, and now he is dead. The March of the Scourge is a defense mission, and for the most part, it's really boring. In the early parts of the mission, there's only one enemy threat, the Meat Wagon. They're the undead analog to the Mortar team, and they can kill my casters in 2 hits. I unlock the Sorceress, a fragile caster who has a slow ability. Low HP and being unarmored normally would be an instant expulsion from a Deathless run, but their ability Slow limits enemy damage so much that I can put up with it. After clearing waves for about 10 minutes, the bonus objective appears. An undead convoy that rolls into town and destroys it. In order to comply with rule number 2, I have to intercept it before it reaches the second town. Once nearby enemies are cleaned up, I head out. Right before the convoy hits the second town, I intercept it. The enormous hitboxes of abominations cause them to get stuck on each other a little bit. They have a hard time connecting with my army. After looting a Medallion of Courage, I use a town portal scroll to head home. After hitting 80 supply, I start massing towers. I figure they can soak some shots from my army while they defend. As soon as the towers finish, an enemy Lich decides that I was wasting my time, and starts channeling his ultimate ability, Death and Decay. This kills my towers really quickly. I remembered from my childhood that the final attack wave was unstoppably tough, even when you're allowed to lose units. With 4 minutes remaining, I decide to evacuate my base and head to the bottom of the map. The enemy attacks were going to clear out my base too quickly. I grab Arthas and play a little game of tag with the enemy ghouls. The final wave has a level 10 Lich. I'm glad that I decided to evacuate. A rank 3 Frost Nova would have probably guaranteed kills on my units. My entire base falls with the exception of 2 farms that I built in the bottom. Arthas soaks as much damage as possible from the impending attack wave before using Divine Shield. And right as the Death Army descends upon me, the mission ends. Not even close. I've finally reached the Culling, one of the iconic moments from Warcraft lore. Wait, this is different. I guess this is what they mean by Reforged. The idea is still the same as the original game. Slay 100 civilians before Mal'Ganis does. Wait, civilians? Oh no. Initially, I wanted to see if I could get around this objective. I tried to send a strike force to take down Mal'Ganis' base, but he has an invulnerable altar. There's no other choice but to continue. Once civilian houses are destroyed, 5 civilians spawn that are supposed to be killed. If you wait long enough, they eventually turn into hostile zombies. Mal'Ganis and I are in a race to kill 100. Unfortunately, a good Samaritan such as Arthas could never kill his own citizens, so I have to wait, every single time, until the enemies turn into zombies, during a race. I unlock the Knight, a high-tier human unit who's tough and fast. I have a squad escort Arthas around while another group defends at home. I eventually realize that with this limitation, I can't outspeed Mal'Ganis. I have to take the fight to him. Mal'Ganis should be tough. His infernal ability is absurd, and will turn the tide of most battles. I have no idea where his infernal went though. He summoned it, I ran away a little bit, and then it just went away somewhere. I used this opportunity to surround and execute Mal'Ganis. You can tell this mission was very well playtested. Once I have my attack and armor upgrades, I send my defensive force into Stratholme, so I can have 2 simultaneous squads clearing the houses. The enemy attacks against me so far have been pretty pathetic. My newly created knights should be more than enough to crap. I evacuate my workers and starting footmen into the city, while my knights ride to intercept. I keep note of the 42 supply mark. If it goes down from that, it means I lost a peasant. My knights arrive just in time, but are flanked by a second attack wave. They have to retreat. I decide to explore the bottom portion of the map with my injured knights. Maybe there's a fountain of healing. No? Just orcs? Okay. As my base is ransacked, my peasants are now nomads. I try to quickly finish up the mission. After beating down an elite abomination creatively named Meathook, I kill the 100th zombie and finish the mission. Not even close. Now that the mainland is zombie-free, it's time to go to the Shores of Northrend. After a quick troll slaughter, I find a base, and with it, I get a new hero, the Mountain King Muradin. Muradin is amazing. He is the epitome of a bulky frontline fighter. His high HP and multiple abilities focused on stunning enemies drastically increase the survivability of my forces. There's an allied town to the northeast that's constantly under threat by the undead. I don't know how long I have to save them before they start dying, so I quickly send Arthas on a solo mission to grab them. After grouping my new friends together, I use a Scroll of Town portal to bring them back to the main camp, leaving the buildings as a distraction for later attack waves. The base that I have to clear is huge, taking up a quarter of the map. I sit tight defending attack waves and building up a large force of my own. After maxing out at 100 food, I move in to engage. I was genuinely surprised to find out the enemy Lich was only level 5. Why are there level 6 Blade Masters on the second mission, but only a level 5 on the 7th? The Mortar teams and Holy Light shred the Lich in the first defensive wave. After the main defenders are down, what remains is a slow trickle of enemies that are being produced. The base does not die quickly, but it also isn't difficult. Honestly, I was pretty underwhelmed. At this point, I had to double check that I was playing on hard. Even though Arthas is busy running a war, as soon as it comes to his attention that some of the Alliance's ships aren't up to code, he snaps into action. All of his forces are currently busy, so he makes the decision to hire some independent contractors to help. On the way to the first ship, there are a few bugs, and it turned out that hiring these contractors was a smashing success. Upon reaching the first ship, Arthas personally inspects it and deems it unfit to sail. It's a health and safety hazard. If one were in the open ocean and it sank, it would be disastrous. The good prince orders that these ships be scuttled. Usually, one of the downsides of being a contractor is that you don't have access to employer healthcare. But Arthas personally paid for 3 troll priests to keep everybody healthy as they fight. After decommissioning the second boat, Arthas expands the team. These new ogres were so excited to join that they painted their entire bodies the color of Arthas's cloak. On the way to the third boat is a gauntlet of spirit towers that would tear up my forces quickly. Luckily, there's a conveniently placed vendor with an amulet of recall for sale. Being the team leader that he is, Arthas puts on Divine Shield, runs through the gauntlet, and recalls his boys across. The path to the final boat is exceedingly difficult. A huge number of undead and spiders that I don't want to break through. Luckily, the game allows Arthas to hold on to Scrolls of Town portal. I use one to teleport to the Alliance base. I then use mortar teams to knock down some trees and finish off the final boat from safety. Because I skipped the post-mission cutscene, I can only make assumptions about these contractors' fates. But I think it's fair to assume that they lived long and prosperous lives after being fairly compensated for their hard work. Frostmourne is rough. The idea of doing 2 different things in different areas at the same time is largely a relic from older RTS at this point. It becomes really hard to keep track of multiple groups of units and keeping everything alive at the same time, so I prefer having one giant army to multiple small ones when doing Deathless runs. I have no such luck here. Arthas and Muradin must find the Runeblade Frostmourne, while my no-hero army deals with a pretty brutal set of undead attack waves. The game gives me a decent count of footmen early on to defend. They're supposed to be expendable fodder. For me, they're wasted supply who have to be hidden in the back the entire mission, limiting my maximum army size. The road to Frostmourne isn't bad. Muradin can control scary enemies, while knights act as bulky tanks. No priests means that Arthas is the one on healing duty, but the path isn't too long, so he doesn't run out of mana. The final enemy is the Guardian, an ice revenant with powerful area of effect damage. I accidentally pulled him away from his allies, and they just sat there watching him die. Now I have the Runeblade Frostmourne, and can finally save Lordaeron from the Scourge. Muradin is a bit tuckered out though, so he decides to take a nap until the second WoW expansion comes out. Even though Arthas is absurdly powerful now, I know that Mal'Ganis' forces are absurd, and Mal'Ganis himself has some incredible area of effect and crowd control abilities. My army consists of a huge force of knights to absorb damage, supported by priest heals and sorceresses to slow the enemies. Once I reach 3/3 and 100 supply, I take this monstrous army and march upon Mal'Ganis' citadel. And? Are you kidding me, Mal'Ganis? Apparently Mal'Ganis decided to take the long route to my base, and like 2 ships passing in the night, our armies blindly avoided each other. I try to take this conundrum and turn it into an opportunity. I continue to push his base. Most of his army isn't home after all. Meanwhile, I evacuate my peasants towards the waygate I used to find Frostmourne. Unfortunately, it doesn't work anymore. My lack of mortar teams means that my building clear speed is relatively low. Mal'Ganis has an edge here. He has meat wagons, which are siege weapons, and my base is just smaller than his. The heart of his base has a ton of spirit towers. They die slowly, and their consistent damage is draining my priest mana quickly. My base dies before Mal'Ganis' does, but then I get lucky. Instead of heading to slaughter my lumbermill and peasants in the corner, Mal'Ganis heads home to defend. Without spellcaster mana, I don't think I can fight him. I decide to give him the runaround. Arthas and knights distract Mal'Ganis while my spellcasters retreat. Once the spellcasters are out of there, the knights flee as well. Now Arthas is alone against the entire Scourge army. Well, he does have one ally, bad enemy AI. It seems that the enemy AI prioritizes killing my main base, and then defending their own base, and finally hunting down buildings around the map. Arthas has the Divine Shield ability. Each time I activate Divine Shield, the AI then moves on to finish me off. After Divine Shield runs out, Mal'Ganis' priority returns to defense, and he goes back home. By the time that he gets back to Arthas, Divine Shield is off cooldown again. By this point, I've killed all of the enemy builders, meaning that I can slowly and steadily finish off the main base while turning the enemy into a giant undead yo-yo. And then things get scary. After Mal'Ganis' base was dead, he took everything he had and then rushed to the bottom left of the map. Arthas didn't have a way to pull him back home. I hid everybody on the western side while his forces slowly closed in. He attacked the lumber mill. And then he left? Satisfied with killing a single lumber mill, Mal'Ganis went home. I burned through my mana, nuking him with Holy Light and using Divine Shield until he died, and successfully completed the mission. Not even close. And with that, Prince Arthas has defeated the Undead Scourge without losing a single unit. Besides those civilians at the beginning. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching and being patient about the lack of videos recently. I got so into speedrunning that I accidentally speedran a staircase and got new personal best time, so I was out of commission for a bit. If you want to catch more of me, you can do so 6 days a week on Twitch, or twice per month on YouTube. I wanted to say thanks to my patrons. Their contributions are what make these videos possible, with a special thanks to my Titan tier patron, Paint My Eye. The human campaign was chaotic, but not that difficult. I'm sure the undead campaign will be just as easy, and not at all buggy. Thanks for watching. Peace.